flow. I haven't done a Buddha bit for a while, so I thought I should do a new one. And so following the progression, we did perfect human rebirth, and we did the impermanence, and now we're at refuge. And what I mean, we can all study refuge, and so there's a lot of material, but I want to do a little bit of more of what I call a personal sort of thought about refuge. And so I always think of refuge in Buddha as inspiration. He walked the path, he attained enlightenment, he came back, he shared his information. The information is still very valid. Whether it's the Dalai Lama breaks Buddhism into three things. It's the philosophies, or what's the nature of reality, quantum mechanics or physics or Newtonian physics or whatever, cause and effect. It's philosophy. Then there's the psychology, which is how to deal with your emotions and feelings. And then finally, you could become religious about it, like make it your faith. And that would include in the previous two, but you could do any one of the three. So anyway, Buddha, basically, his philosophy is good, still stands up. His understanding of how to work with emotions is very good, still stands up. And if you want to, you could become a Buddhist, take refuge. But I want to talk about it more from the side of being personal, a practitioner. Okay, so when you look at the Buddha, it's important not to sort of make it that it's just like some statue or something like dead. Rather that one, you should see your gurus in the Buddha image if you're looking at a statue of the Buddha. But the other side, though, is if we're actually thinking of Buddha Shakyamuni or any enlightened being, we turn our mind to Tar, Manjushri, or Avalokiteshvara, they're all Buddhas. Then it's interesting. So it's said in Buddhism that when a person becomes enlightened, they can remember all of their past lives, all of the varieties of rebirths that they've taken that led them up to finally becoming enlightened. Because they have a omniscient mind, they have completely nothing has more power than themselves, and they have great love and compassion for all sentient beings, humans and animals and insects and all types of sentient beings. So the thing about remembering all their past lives, so when I look at the Buddha statue, I think of, okay, I'm Jampa, I'm Canadian, and I grew up in a certain way. I did certain things which I'm somewhat proud of, some I'm rather embarrassed by, and such. Okay, and then I have, I'm influenced by that culture, but I'm also influenced by the karma I accumulated from the attitude I had, and then from previous rebirths. So all of that come a really interesting package. And so when the Buddha looks at me, he can identify because he's looking at his own infinite rebirths that he's had. And okay, maybe he's not been born in Canada, okay, Canada didn't exist, when he was around. But the point is that all the things, being in a relationship or, losing a relationship, maybe doing something negative like lying or stealing or killing or being in a war, all those things. Buddha Shakyamuni, or say Siddhartha, in his previous rebirths, had all of those experiences and went through them. Again, if you study Buddhism, he was, sometimes he was born as an animal. There's the Jataka tales, born as a monkey, born as a white elephant. Then as a human, he was one time born as a yogi living in the forest, and the local king found him and was angry with him and cut his arms and legs off, and whatever. He was practicing patience. But those are the sort of fantastic stories. But when you look at a Buddha statue and you say, okay, like Buddha's consciousness is here, I'm focused on you, and the Buddha consciousness, as it touches you, it's not like apathetic or disinterested. Like you could say, you and who you are, all the karma you've accumulated, in Buddha's consciousness, they merge, and Buddha can feel who you are at this time. And then the enlightened being, Buddha, Tar, or whoever, they basically understand you from their empathy of having had similar rebirths, which they have access to because they have an omniscient consciousness. And so they actually understand you. That's my point, is it's not like the Buddha's going, oh, I never had that experience, but okay, I'll try to help you. No, the Buddha's been through all of the varieties of experiences in this realm and in all the other realms and all the rebirths that have ever been taken. So it's just an interesting thought. So when I look at the Buddha, I feel very much that the Buddha touches my consciousness, knows all the nuances of who I am. And so therefore, if I turn my mind to the Buddha, which is what it means to take refuge, it means I'm allowing enlightened mind to help me more. I mean, I'm giving them, you could say, access. I mean, so I think there's a translation of taking refuge is turning your mind in a certain direction. So rather than turning our mind to mundane things, you know, my car, my wealth, my house I live in, who I'm hanging out with, who I'm married to, or whatever, all of those things, that's an external, my mind's focused on that. I'm focused internally. You know, may I be a better person? May I be a bodhisattva? May I have ethics? May I have generosity? Those things. So that's refuge is you turn your mind within and you try to sort of become more enlightened. Okay, that's one. But then we do it with Buddha Shakyamuni or Tara or Avalokiteshvara, whatever Buddha you care to do, or Padmasambhava, or you know, any of the great saints that have become enlightened. And when you turn your mind to them, you could say you call on them. They're omniscient, so they arrive. And then because they have that omniscient consciousness of having remembered all their past lives, they have many bridges of empathy for who you are. And so therefore, it's much more of a personal thing. It's not just sort of this strange person I never really met from a different culture. Really, they have access. And that's where, like, again, if you turn your mind towards becoming enlightened, turn your mind to refuge, they have more access to you and they can help you. And of course, then you study so that you get more educated in how to work with yourself. I mean, that's the refuge in the Dharma. And then you have friends, so people that just your regular Sangha friends who might give you some good advice. But the big one is that Buddha can help you. You know, I mean, turning your mind in that direction. Again, they don't do a sign. I mean, there's a joke, so like, you know, having been helped by the Buddha, there's a little tag that appears in your forehead, been helped by Buddha. No, Buddhas are incognito. They don't need any egocentric, you know, pat on the back that they did a good job on who you were, but rather just like you say, they're moving with you. And if there's a little bit of an opening where you could have become a little bit of enlightened, you know, they will show something. Maybe it's a fly flies in front of your face or something like that. I mean, those are straight out of the teachings of the Buddha. That the Buddha will manifest according to your needs. So whether it's a bridge or a car or an insect or a dog in front of you, like Sangha with the dog that was Maitreya Buddha, you know, all of those things. And that, in fact, actually, that's a good story. I'll share that just because, you know, I've got your attention for a few minutes. So, you know, we all know the story of the Sangha. He did 12 years of retreat. He did 3 years, and he was in a mountain, in a cave, got depressed. He came out. Because for 3 years, he had no experiences. And then he saw birds that fly in and out of the cliff wall that the cave he was in, and that their feathers touching the stone had actually rubbed the stone a little bit smooth. And he went, well, if a feather can rub a stone smooth, I can go back and meditate. So he went back another 3 years. Nothing happened. He got frustrated. He came out and he came across a man as he's walking down the mountain towards a village, a man who was digging one side of the valley into a wheelbarrow and then wheeling it over to the other side and then dumping it out and going back and thinking. And then he asked the man, like, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm moving this side of the valley to that side of the valley. And the son said, like, why? He says, because it's what I want to do. And then he went, oh my God, you know, if this guy is going to try to move this side of the valley to that side of the valley, I can go back and meditate. Another 3 years back in his cave. Now he's got 9 years. So again, he went, okay, you know, I'm going to go out. So he avoided looking at the birds. He avoided the guy with the wheelbarrow. And he arrived a little bit further down, and there's a fellow sitting there on a rock with a piece of steel and a cloth, and he was rubbing a piece of steel with the cloth. And the son was a little tired, you know, so he said, well, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm going to rub this piece of metal down and make a needle. What are you talking about? He said, well, it'll happen, you know, don't worry, I've got the patience. Okay, slap in the face for a Sangha, went back up to the cave, went another 3 years, now 12 years, okay. So he's accumulating a lot of energy, no visions, nothing, not even a dream or anything. So he's really unhappy. So he walks down the mountain, of course, past the birds, past the wheelbarrow, past the guy with the needle, and he gets down close to the village. And then lying at the side of the road is a half-dead dog. You know, this dog lying there, and so as he's walking up, the dog starts growling at him because it's not quite dead yet. And he looks at the dog and he goes, oh, And now this is Maitreya Buddha, but in the aspect of a dog that's been injured. And so what you have to understand is and this is my story, okay? So when a Sangha was a young boy, he had a pet dog and he loved that little pet dog. And it really opened his heart to play with the doggy and everything like that. And so he has karma inside of him to open his heart because of a dog. And so Maitreya, having touched and understood that, manifests the half-dead dog. So a Sangha goes over and the dog growls at him more, and he sits there and he says, it's okay, and he says prayers, he says nice words, and the dog calms down, and then he can stroke the dog on the head, and the dog looks up and with his big eyes, and oh, thank you so much, and the Sangha, the karma of having had puppies when he was young ripens a little bit more, and of course then we see that in the wound on the side of the dog, there's some maggots, and then the Sangha is going to take his greasy, horrible fingers of 12 years in the cave and move the maggots off. And he says, oh, that'll kill the maggots, and I'm a Buddhist, I can't kill anything, and also my hands are so dirty. So anyway, then he cuts a little bit of his own flesh off of his own leg, puts it down, and then he's going to pick up this maggot again. So then he says, well, what's soft and humid? And it's his tongue. And so I thought, okay, well, I don't really want to do this, but hey, I want the doggy, because the doggy is crying a little bit and shaking, and he's going, oh, I want to help the doggy, and so then he bends over with his tongue, tries to take one of the maggots, and there's nothing there. And he looks up and he's looking at the feet of Maitreya Buddha, and he looks up and he goes, oh my God, oh my Buddha, Maitreya Buddha. And he's so happy, and he dances around a little bit, and then he gets angry. He says, what is it? I spent 12 years in the cave and you never manifested. Why is it now you finally manifest? And he says, well, you accumulated a lot of karma, but you didn't open your heart. That was the final thing that needed to happen. And so half-dead dog did it for you. And so then anyway, then the Sangha was so happy, picked up Maitreya Buddha and ran into the village carrying him on his back, saying, look, I have Maitreya Buddha. And then it said that only a little old lady that had very pure karma could see that he had a half-dead dog on his shoulders. That's the story. But that's my point. It's perfect that for our personal evolution in the creative process of being a bodhisattva working towards enlightenment, that again, if we're open to that, now again, we shouldn't be extreme in the sense that everything's a manifestation of the Buddha, and then suddenly I'm, chopping my arms and legs off or doing something ridiculous. No, I'm not discounting that, but I'm just saying, we are ordinary people, so slowly accumulate the karma, be devoted, and then maybe your heart can open and your mind can open, and you can become higher on the level of being a bodhisattva. So that's my thought. That's refuge, and just some thoughts about when we turn our mind to the Buddhas, how should we think? So that's this Buddha bit. I'll go into next one's karma, which is very interesting. So that'll be another Buddha bit. Take care, big hugs, and goodbye from Sangha.